India is rapidly running out of its most critical natural resource. But because the drain is happening hundreds of feet underground, out of sight, it's easy to ignore the scale of the depletion. If we could see beneath the surface, we'd watch massive aquifers experience a steady drain, leaving dry bedrock where billions of gallons used to sit. When those aquifers run dry, the impact on the surface is immediate and brutal across 7 water-stressed states, from Rajasthan to Maharashtra. The earth cracks, and traditional water sources simply vanish. Farming becomes impossible. Communities abandon crops just to spend days securing enough drinking water to survive. The quiet, invisible crisis underground transforms into a loud, desperate scramble on the surface, with hundreds of people fighting over a single delivery tanker. For decades, the government tried to engineer its way out of this. The standard, centralized approach was to simply dig deeper wells and build larger extraction infrastructure to chase the receding water table. It failed to slow the depletion. Since the state cannot simply build its way to a higher water table, the strategy must pivot toward reducing demand at the individual wellhead. The Ministry of Jal Shakti designed the Atal Bhujal Yojana, or Atal Jal, to reverse that old bureaucratic model. Instead of funding supply-side projects to find more water, the scheme shifts the focus entirely to demand-side management. It provides financial incentives for local communities to use less water. Changing deeply ingrained agricultural habits requires serious financial incentives. To make it happen, the government secured a total project outlay of 6,000 crore rupees. That budget is split right down the middle, 50% funded by the government of India and 50% funded internationally by the World Bank. These funds are designed to bypass traditional state bureaucracy and flow directly to 8,350 local gram panchayats. To access this money, the village must complete a specific grassroots process. Step 1 is community water budgeting. The gram panchayat holds mandatory local consultations. The people living there sit down, assess their available resources, and calculate their exact local water deficit. Once the community understands their deficit, Step 2 is drafting a formal binding document called a Water Security Plan, or WSP. This plan details exactly how the village will reduce its demand. They outline shifts away from flood irrigation and plan for efficient agricultural upgrades, like installing micro-irrigation pipelines and drought-resistant crop varieties. When a community authors its own rules and selects its own technology, it creates a sense of local ownership that helps ensure the new conservation habits actually stick. It is vital to note that this entire application process through the Jal Shakti channels is completely free. Villagers should never pay private agencies charging fees for community training registers. The modern role of the government here is strictly to safeguard the process and provide the capital. The actual management of the water is left to the community. When a gram panchayat successfully executes its plan, the landscape physically changes. The cracked, dry earth is replaced by dense, diversified crops. Because the community adopted efficient irrigation, this growth requires a fraction of the groundwater they used to extract. This recovery happens because the farmer standing in that field chose to change his methods, rather than waiting for a mandate from a distant capital. A nationwide drought is too complex to solve with a single sweeping law. Recharging the aquifers requires millions of specific, granular choices made by the people who know the land best. One village deciding to install micro-irrigation saves a few thousand liters, but when over 8,000 villages do it simultaneously, it adds up to billions of gallons kept safely underground. The Atal Bhujal Yojana suggests that groundwater stability depends less on massive concrete infrastructure and more on aligning financial incentives with the local management of a shared resource.